Hey, great. Another Tuesday evening. I hope everyone is well. We're looking at our usual topic. We're looking at, oh my God, I've been gaslighted at work. Is there anything I can do? So following on from my series of moral injury and DARVO, I'm continuing today with this whole thing around gaslighting. We looked at it briefly last week and we're looking at it a bit more today. So I'm just waiting for my sound engineer to send their bits forward. So we're looking at what gaslighting is. Gaslighting is one of those words, a bit like narcissism and psycho. We use those words in everyday language, and somehow, thank you, it's lost. If you go on Facebook for me as well, just to make sure I'm still there, it's not lost its meaning, but it's become very popularized. So we're going to look what gaslighting is, some of the signs of gaslighting, and then what we can do. My name is Delroy Hall. I'm a trained psychotherapist, nearly 40 years now, trainer and lecturer, and I've been doing these broadcasts since 2020 during the pandemic, and I'm still doing them. What I would say to anybody who might be listening, either on catch up or you're scrolling at some point and wondering whether I should start it or not, I say to folks, just start, and whatever happens, it's feedback, and then you build from there. So I'm learning lots of stuff. Thank you, Sonia. I'm learning lots of stuff about marketing and sales, and still got a way to go and so forth. But tonight we're looking at, oh my God, I've been gaslighted at work. What can I do? So I've termed it that moral injury, which I spoke about some time ago, where we're at a place of work, our morals and values are violated. DARVO, deny, attack, revenge, victim, offender, where you report something at work and there's a suggested investigation, then you realize it's a fake investigation and you now become the offender. So I'm looking at gaslighting today. But before I do that, just a kind of funny story, really. I don't know whether the person will be watching tonight, but I put up a quote this morning about it's a kind of gaslighting quote. I really think you need to calm down. That's what some people do when they're gaslighting you. And I put in my comments that I've got it on good authority that women don't like to be told you need to calm down. So one respondent has said, well, maybe the first thing you need to do as a female, you need to ask whether she's on her period or not. Well, I responded, there's no way I'm going to do that. And then her response was, that's very wise. And my response was, yes, a wise man lives to face and enjoy another day. So I ain't going there on that one. But I do know that women hate to be told when they're maybe quite right about something, rightly so, calm down. They don't like it at all. And I've got a comment from a man. He said he hates it as well. It's a trigger for him. So I don't think it's a gender specific phrase. But anyway, it was some good humor. I've not mentioned her name because I'm not asked her position, but it's out in the public domain. And whilst we're looking at these complicated and delicate stuff, there is some humor as well. And I just want to say a huge thank you for individuals who've been commenting, sharing the stories. It really makes it worthwhile. Somebody this afternoon just called me out the blue and said, look, just continue doing. There's some of us who might be contacting you and we'll interact with you, but there's lots of people who have been helped by it. So I'm so grateful that people are being helped. So this whole thing around what is gaslighting, and the whole thing around what are some of the signs, and then what can we do. So you've heard me talk about it, and maybe some of you know, 1944 film taken from a stage production of two individuals, a guy called Charles Boyer and Ingrid Bergman. There's other people as well, but a man who psychologically drives his wife insane and causes her to have a nervous breakdown. So there's things go missing, pictures go missing. The film, I think there are a couple of films with the same title on YouTube. I've not watched them, but I've just noticed that there are a couple of films that it may be to do with that. And basically, over a period of time, he systematically breaks his wife. I think she's kind of nervous anyway, but he breaks down her belief in herself. He distorts her sense of reality. This whole gaslighting thing. She's upstairs and he messes around with the light switch and the light dims. And she says, anything wrong with the lights? He said, no, nothing wrong with the lights at all. And really, it's him messing about with things. Things go missing. Strange footsteps in the house. So it's this whole thing around attempting to make someone distort their sense of reality. Now, there's 4 types of gaslighting. And I didn't know this. The great thing about research, you find things out. 4 things about gaslighting. There's outright lying. There's the manipulation of reality, number 2. There's scapegoating, and there's coercion. So 4 types of gaslighting. I just want to mention them. You can certainly do your own work on them, but certainly outright lying, that you say something and then the person who's gaslighting you, say you didn't say that. There's manipulation of reality, things like, oh no, you never said that before. Oh no, things are all right here. Or there's this whole kind of scapegoating. There's blame shifting that goes on. So you are now the offender, and there's coercion. There's brute force that's used. Now, brute force can be in terms of words, not maybe necessarily physical stuff, but the way in which people speak. Also, the whole thing around gaslighting is designed to really damage you as an individual. So it happens on a personal level, on an intimate level, and also working situation. And one of the things I want to say right up front is that when people either experience moral injury or DARVO or gaslighting in a work setting, even if they leave, the after effects can be with people, not just for a few days, for weeks, but for months and for years. There's somebody I know, he left the workplace many years ago, similar situation. And many years on, he still thinks about it. And if he thinks about it too deeply, gets angry. It's something about gaslighting, this whole thing around, there's this sense of injustice, which as human beings, we really detest when we've been violated, the sense of we've been treated unjustly. There's a sense that we kind of react to all that. So, some of the signs of being gaslighted. So it's really good to be aware of some of the signs. I'll be saying what we can do to develop ourselves in a bit, but some of the signs of gaslighting is that you're constantly being questioned in a way that's causing you to question your reality. You might say something and the person will say, are you sure? Are you sure that's how it was? And if that is said enough times, you then begin to question, did that really happen? Did I really say that? So people subtly question what you've said, what you've done, and so forth. If there's anyone on Facebook, I just want to know that you're there. Please, if you want to ask a question or make a comment that's relevant to the topic today, please put it in the chat box. I will pick it up on either YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook, but I might not be able to show it on all the screens at the moment. So you're constantly being questioned, and in a way that kind of causes you to question your reality. Another thing about gaslighting is that people, I hear it all the time, out of nowhere, people start talking about your performance. Your performance has never been questioned. It's never been a topic of discussion. It's never been raised in your meetings with your manager. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seems, there's questions about your performance. And if you're somebody who's diligent, hardworking, keen, the minute, and you know that you do a good day's work, the minute somebody starts to question your performance, even though you may know you're doing something good, that starts to make people feel unrattled, unsteady. And then so their performance is being questioned, and then what they're saying is being questioned. You can see drip effect over a period of time can really disturb people in a deep way. Unjust comments about your productivity, never been mentioned before. You will know you're being gaslighted, and I want to make a note of it. You know you're being gaslighted when your perpetrator consistently denies that you said or you didn't say a certain thing. They make comments and did you not say it? And when you know you've said it, like you know you're still performing well, you know that you've said it or you've not said it, and they're questioning it, they're challenging it, you know then you are experiencing gaslighting behaviors. And if that happens a few times, you don't want it to happening for weeks and months, but that's beginning to happen, you need to begin to take some action, because there's a kind of slow, I won't say conspiracy, but there's a slow means of trying to get rid of you. Another way that you know you're being gaslighted is when you are constantly made to feel small. So the person won't speak to you in public, or the manager won't speak to you in public or behind closed doors or in a one-to-one, but they'll say it in a public meeting. you're made to feel small. You say something and it's ridiculed. You say something and it's batted down. You say something and it's dismissed. You say something and it's ignored. Or when you do make a comment and there's a response, there's a response designed to make you feel small, embarrass you, to make you feel ashamed. You shouldn't be there. All those type of things. So if you're constantly made to feel small in your work setting, you can rest assured that's one of the aspects of gaslighting behavior. Another thing that I've heard very recently, I've known about it, but somebody I know pretty well, the head of a part of a department, and the person was raising some issues about not so much members of staff, but wanting to kind of just set the bar a bit higher in terms of the work they were doing. And he's the head. And now he's been excluded from emails, meetings he should be attending as the head. He's been excluded from them, not been invited to them. There's emails all going around and he's been excluded, feeling now incredibly ostracized. And certainly if you're the leader, you're a team leader, you're the division leader, you're the head of a department, and you've been excluded from really important meetings that you should be at, you know those are signs of gaslighting. There's another one that is really kind of subtle. It's what they call it a word salad. Now, the word salad, it comes from the kind of, I guess, from the word of psychology, and it comes from people who are experiencing severe brain disease. They talk, they use words, but when you listen to what's being said, it's not making any sense. It's kind of garbled. It's words you're hearing all right, but somehow it's not making any sense. Quite often from people who are experiencing schizophrenia, they're talking words, you know the words, but when you put the words together, they don't make any sense. And certainly, so that the word salad used in this way by the perpetrator is an attempt, again, to get you to cause you to think, to distrust your reality, to question your perception, to question what might be happening to you. Very, very subtle, and chips away at who we are over a period of time. One of the things I've said, that you can't remain in such an environment like that, psychologically and emotionally. It is crippling. It will affect you. And in some of my newsletters, I've made some comments about the whole thing about moral injury, DARVO, and gaslighting. And without being too drastic, it's dehumanizing. It is an attempt. It's a deliberate attempt. They would never think that, but it's a deliberate attempt to destroy you, to put you off your stroke, to marginalize you, to ostracize you, to make you feel small, to belittle you. It's a deliberate attempt. It's not done by accident. Certainly at some level there might be some unconsciousness about it, but then at some point it becomes conscious and they know exactly what they are doing. Those individuals who've been hospitalized or long-term sick, or they may have left an organization because of gaslighting, they will tell you that the effects of it doesn't go away. It's with you for weeks, months, and sometimes for years. And in fact, for some people, some of the symptoms, they never ever disappear fully. They are there all the time, and it hinders people, or can hinder people, in making moves forward in their lives and personal relationships. As you can imagine, if you continue working in such an environment, it's a perfect recipe for hatred, resentment. Now, hatred and resentment, of course, is a buildup of negative emotions, and hatred, I don't need to explain that. We know that. But one of the things, of course, if we don't deal with these negative emotions, they produce all sorts of illnesses. Anger, it's not so much that's not so much an anger, but that's one of the symptoms of it. But certainly anxiety, depression, high blood pressure. It affects the immune system. It affects the endocrine system. If we have resentment and hatred in our heart, there is no escape from the effects of it, none whatsoever. Yeah, as I said, endocrine system, immune system. I suspect blood pressure. I suspect if it's long enough, and it affects the body, it wouldn't surprise me whether or not it affects our blood and maybe go right down to cell level. I'm not a psychiatrist. That's not my area of research, but it wouldn't surprise me the depth of hatred and resentment that can really affect people's lives. So in a sense, the fallout from that is actually horrendous. So none of us can remain in those spaces and places, and to have those experiences is not good for us whatsoever. So one of the things I always mention to individuals, you know, they say, well, Delroy, you know, it wasn't too bad, it was this and it was that and so forth. But my thing always is this: yes, you're having that effect, you're experiencing it, but what is happening to you on the inside? What residual harm is it doing to you within? So you know, some of us are really good, we're resilient, we're resisting things, and quite a lot of people, like myself, I've got a bit of an issue with resilience, because what we can do, we can go on a course, train to be resilient, learn strategies, learn methods, learn techniques, and then what we do in the very workplace that sent you on the resilience training, that's the environment that's making you unwell. It's the environment that's causing you to be sick. No point sending people on a resilience training course. The culture, the environment is what's causing people to be unwell and so forth. It's the culture of the environment, not necessarily the individual. I remember talking to a GP a few years ago, and he said to me that he had one of his patients who was really working in a toxic relationship, who was struggling, and he said to them, look, I will give you some medication, but the medication is not going to sort out the problem, because you're working in a hostile and a toxic environment. The medication is not going to do anything. So yes, medication is fine, but you're going to have to take yourself out of the environment so that you can you know, function better. So going to the doctors, getting medication is not kind of a remedy for dealing with it. So what can you do? What can we do if you find yourself, you've listened to some of the stuff and think, Delroy, and certainly I've heard it so often over the last few weeks, people were experiencing things and they said to me, Delroy, I didn't know there was a phrase for it, I didn't know there was a term for it, but listening to your broadcast, I realized there's something exists. It's a psychological technique designed to kind of crush people and so forth. I didn't know what it was, but the minute you started to explain it, then I heard what was happening, or I experienced and understood what was happening. So what can I do? Well, these are a few things that you can do, but I'll firstly say, and I've certainly, somebody messaged me to say that being assertive and standing up for yourself is really difficult. It is. It really, really is, because quite often if you're dealing with management, you're dealing with an authority figure, and how do you think about authorities anyway? What's your feelings about authority? So that will have an impact on you. If you're from certain cultures where authority figures are meant to be revered, you're not going to stand up to them easily, because authority figures are people that they're the kind of fount of all knowledge, they're the oracle, and so forth and so forth. And it's very difficult for you to actually challenge them. Let me just check and see if there's anything happening on Facebook. Right, let me just check. Okay, right. So these are some of the things. So these are learnt skills. And first off, if you're like me, who was raised, you know, culturally, you're raised to respect authority. You don't challenge authority. But as I got older, I realized sometimes the authority is bants and they need challenging. But you don't have to challenge people in a raw way, in a rude way, but question what they're doing. And if you don't agree, you don't go along with things, and so forth. But so what I'm going to say now is a learned skill. It's really important, but you can learn it. So educate yourself. Learn about moral injury, learn about DARVO, learn about gaslighting, and most of all, learn about employment law. Well, Delroy, I've got a full-time job. Yes, learn about the stuff, because learning about it could cost you your life, or not learn about it could cost you your life. So this is nighttime curriculum, early morning curriculum, learn about moral injury, signs and symptoms, learn about DARVO, signs and symptoms, learn about gaslighting, signs and symptoms, know your rights as an employee of an organization, check out their policies. I think I was I shocked somebody last week when I said that an employer has a legal right to ensure that you work in an environment that is safe and secure, and that you can work to your best, to your best ability. So having hostile environments, again, I'm going to say a little bit more in a moment. That is part of the responsibility of employers to deal with it. But they have a legal obligation that when you come to work, that you can work safely and to the best of your ability. So number two, so extortion. So if that now, I was talking to somebody literally a few weeks ago, and they said that they worked for a boss who didn't want to send emails. Listen, this is about your well-being, your safety. Stuff the boss if he doesn't want emails. So you have a meeting, and what you do, you write the email, say we've had this meeting. If you suspect the person is gaslighting you, this is the meeting that we had. This is what was said. This is what we agreed on, and send it. They may not reply, but what you need is a paper trail. So if anything comes to it, you've got something. Because what happens quite often, it's he says, she says, and then quite often an organization will take the side of the manager. And I really struggle to use the word leader, because I have a particular view about leaders. Leaders wouldn't gaslight people. And if leaders find that they're putting an employee in a difficult position, a leader, a good leader, and you may then say, well, there's things called bad leaders. A good leader will realize what they're doing. They will apologize and they'll do something about it. That's what I know leadership is. But I think, if I'm going to be honest, there's very, very poor examples of a lot of leadership around in many of our workplaces. So gather the information, screenshot stuff if necessary, and archive it. Make sure you have a file in your emails. So if anything happens, you've got everything there in one place. You're not having to trail through all your messages, trail through all your emails to find out certain things. You archive it. So if anything should come to it, you've got everything in one place. One of the things I would say is really important: get support from people, either in the place of work, if it's that way inclined, or from people outside of the workplace. Remember that you're now reporting something, and in reporting now, you can face being gaslit, and also you can face the whole thing around DARVO: deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender. So you've done your stuff in good faith, you've been honest, you've been diligent, and now the scale is turned and everything is going against you. So that's really important. A few more things I would say to you: be careful about confronting the gaslighter. I wouldn't even encourage you to do it. And the other thing I want to encourage you to do: never meet them in private. Remember, they're good at lying already, and meet them in private. They will say things you didn't say, forget things you didn't say. Forget things you did say. So don't meet them in private. Avoid confronting them. And one of the things which is really important, if you can ever get to learn it, narcissists hate it, if you're able to remain calm. There's a poem by Kipling. Is it called If? I can't remember. There's this poem that if you can remain calm when everybody else is losing their head, then you'll be a man, my son. Also, then you'll be a woman, my daughter. So this whole thing around remaining calm in the midst of all the furore is really, really important. Once you've gathered all the information together, possibly with the help of the friend or the community, I've got some really good friends. If I want to put something together, I put it together. I can check it out with them, and they'll say, what's missing here? You need this here. And they really can help you put it together. Don't do it on your own if you can get the support. And see if you can arrange a friend with HR or management. But I want to give you a word of caution with HR and management. I wish I would never have to say it, but I am going to say it. A word of caution. So in terms of your delivery of your information, be concise, be clear, be assertive, explain the facts and the behavior and how it's impacted on you and your mental health and the ability to work. These are buzz things in the workplace now. Mental health and your ability to work. Stick to the documented facts. And if they're going off tangent, bring it back to the facts. Now, listen carefully. If HR or management want copies of your notes or whatever you're finding, keep the originals and give them the copies. Why? HR and management have a peculiar way of losing stuff. And what you don't want is to lose information and evidence that you need to save your life. So be very, very careful. I'll be honest with you. I started work, when I was 20, very, very naively. And I think as I've gotten on older, still pretty naively, thinking that people will be honest, due diligence. No, not at all. There are people that are honest. There are people that are just. There are people that are upright. But quite often we're meeting people today that are not that. They're saving their skin. HR, my understanding is they are, I don't want to use the word, but in cahoots with management, working alongside management. And some of you will know, in fact, many of you will know this already from personal experience. HR is there to protect the business, the organization, not for you. We are dispensable, as we hear sometimes, that you're just a number. And the thing about numbers, people do not grow emotionally attached to numbers. So you're just a number. And the HR policies and procedures quite often is there to protect the organization so you don't sue them. So that's what it's there for. So be very, very careful. So being gaslighted, bullied, standing your ground, being assertive, all that type of stuff, it really just takes some strength. So one of the things I need to say, give attention to your mental health and well-being. Those of us, who have experienced illness through these type of environments, you know how long it takes to recover. So I'd really encourage you to look after your well-being and your mental health as best as you can. You know that when your health has hit a crisis, you seldom, if ever, go back to the place of the original state before the crisis. You get back, you can be reasonably fit and so forth, but there's a wound there, and that wound never ever heals totally. So that's just something to bear in mind. I'm going to finish on this. If after reporting the incident of being gaslit, and there's been an investigation, and there is no change, you are left with a few options. Now, the perpetrator who's been gaslighting you, if there's been an investigation and he or she's been exonerated, you know they're going to come for you. You know that. As I said before, one of the things that narcissists do, they can rally support of other people who then you're part of a team. Then the next thing, everybody in the team is against you because the narcissist has rallied them around and said all manner of stuff about you. So you have some options. You can remain on the same team and in the same organization, and I would not encourage that one iota. It could be, though, you might say to me, Delroy, I have no choice. I would say, let's meet up and have a conversation. I suspect you do have a choice, but whilst we are angry and overwhelmed with emotion, we can't see what the choices can be. But I think we always have choices, whether or not we want to take to it or not. So what I'm going to say here, for more information, my website or email me. If you tell me I've got no choice, you do. You do have choice. We always have choice, and you do have choice. The other thing you can do, you can ask to leave the team. You can ask for a transfer. If you're part of a large organization, that's what can happen. And if management are savvy enough, and they will know that it can't be business as usual on the same team, so somebody has to be moved to a different department, ask for a transfer, because you know, and what makes it worse, if you know you're innocent and there's been a sense of injustice, it is very, very difficult to remain in the same space. And some of us may talk about forgiveness and so forth, but again, if you're suppressing how you're really feeling, what impact is that having on your body? It's having negative impact on your body, and at some point it's going to make you sick. You can't carry on as if nothing's happened, because there's been a huge injustice. You've been lied against. People have not believed you and all the rest of it. That's a massive impact on our well-being. One of the things you can do is just leave the organization immediately. You realize what's taking place. No proper investigation. They said there's been an investigation. Nothing's changed. You're not believed, and so forth and so forth. One of the things you can do is leave the organization. You may not be able to leave now, but could you leave in 6 months' time? I've worked with individuals who things are really, really difficult. and they want to leave, but they couldn't leave now. But I remember one person in particular, I said, you can't leave now, but could you leave in 6 months' time or 8 months' time? Yes, I can. Okay, then how are we going to work together? How am I going to help you to have the strategies in place so that for the next 8 months, you're able to ride the storm? Because it's going to be a tough time. So there's strategies and ways in which you can kind of work within the individual. One of the things you do, you take regular breaks. If you know that you've been watched, it's just one of those things, you know that you're going, but you take regular breaks, as well as make sure that outside of work, you have things that really relax you and almost kind of detoxify you in terms of some of the things you're experiencing. Some folks I've known, even with family commitments, I've left an organization with no job to go to. Now, everybody's condition is different, but I remember once being in this building. I was waiting for the lift, and it was a day that I didn't normally go in. And as the lift was coming down, I could hear the women talking in the lift. And one individual said, and I know who it was, and I've never mentioned it to her, and she said to her friend, as I could hear it in the lift coming down, she says, I can't take any more. She said, that's why I've resigned. I've got no job to go to, but I can't take any more, and I'm going, and I've left without no job to go to. And sometimes we have to do that. Now, you may say, Delroy, you don't know my situation. You're right, I don't. This is what I do know is this. You can remain in a job for another 6 months to 8 months and end up so unwell that you are neither use to yourself or your family for 2 or 3 years. When I would say to you, possibly in England in which we live, we leave an organization, we have a bit of a break, and we'll find anything, the job to help us recover and to make sure we can look after our families. Sometimes we have to make those sacrifices, knowing that when you do that job, you keep saying to yourself, it's not permanent, it's temporary. It's temporary, but you have a responsibility to look after your family. And if your children are of age, gather them together and tell them what's happening. Quite often what we do, we exclude our children from these things, but the children see what's happening. They can see that we're not the same. They can see that we're a bit off center. They see that we are not usual dad or usual mum. They pick it up and they create stories in their head. And one of the greatest things you could do as a parent is to gather them around and say, look, not in all details, but you're speaking in a way they understand. This is what's happening where, and daddy or mummy is having to leave to ensure that I remain healthy. What will that mean for the family? It might mean that we might not be able to have some toys or go out as regular. Explain it to children. They can put those emotions in a place. But if they're just left to work things out for themselves and their brains haven't kind of developed to work things out rationally, they create horror stories to match how they feel. And the other thing I'll say in closing, that when we teach and talk to our children about unpleasant emotions, we are preparing them for life. We now know that if we talk about unpleasant emotions with our children, they make better partners, they're better in their careers, more finances, they're more balanced, they're good to be with, they're just great people. So gaslighting is happening. What can I do? Here's some of them. Educate yourself on gaslighting, get as much information as you can, employment law, get information on that, gather the evidence, collate everything together, get support from your work colleagues or your friends outside of work. Be careful about confronting the gaslighter. Do not meet the gaslighter in private. Do not do that at all. Once you gather all the information, see if you can get a meeting. If there's a refusal, keep all your information. Maybe get some stuff for those of us based in the UK from ACAS, see what you can do. And then if you do get a chance to be in a meeting, be concise, be clear, be assertive, keep to the facts, state your case, and that's it. Don't get sidetracked. And also give attention to your mental health and well-being. And if the organization really has not come up with anything, no suggestions, no resolutions, no solutions, nothing to move forward, you have some choices to make, and I'm sure you'll make the right one. Wishing you well. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. If you want to find out more, please contact me through my email, as some of you are. and let's have a conversation, and then we can certainly we can see what else is in store for you. But yeah, give us a call, email me, message me, and yeah, let's have a conversation. So enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening and also the rest of your week, and I'll see you next week at 7. Take care, all the best, bye.